In this week's episode of StudioInter, we'll be reviewing the 2 wins against Parma and Atalanta. We'll be previewing the game against Torino. We'll be discussing Inter's Scudetto chances with in-front content creator and Serie A commentator, Mr. Patrick Tarroni. This week's Moggi, Moratti and Frog, and much, much more. Everything here on Studio Inter, only on SempreInter.com. Benvenuti, bentornati to another edition of Studio Inter. I'm your host, Nerazzurri, wishing you welcome back to another week where Inter are capolista, which is something that we might have to get used to as this season progresses on. But before we get to all of that, let me introduce my panelists, starting with the SempreInter.com preview writer, Mr. Mohamed Nassar.
Hey ho, what a time. Great to be here. Can't wait to get into this podcast.
Yes, let's do it. And we're also joined by the chief news editor on SempreInter.com, Mr. William Beckman.
Hello, buzzing for this. Happy birthday, Inter, of course, because we are recording this on Inter's 113th birthday.
Yes, the 9th of March, absolutely. And we're also joined by a very old friend of ours he's not been on the show for quite some time. We're very happy to have him back. Welcome back, Mr. Edoardo Dal Monte.
I am so happy to be here and thank you so much for having me. I am incredibly excited and naturalmente tanti auguri Internazionale di Milano 1908. Football club, certo.
Of course. And we're also joined by a very special guest. He's a Serie A commentator. He's a content producer over on In Front, making a Studio Inter debut, Mr. Patrick Tarroni.
Hello. Thank you for having me. It's good to be here.
It's good to be with you. It's good to have you with us. Well, let's start with. I wanted to start with the game against Atalanta because the past. I mean, Inter are on a 7-win run right now, and it's been 7 of the toughest games throughout the season. It's been a derby. It's been Lazio and also Atalanta, who now are one of the best teams in Europe. But they've won these games in quite different ways. Against Genoa and Parma, they were the team that were dominating possession and creating chances. Against Milan and Lazio, they played a little bit deeper. But above all, against Atalanta, it was catenaccio pretty much. It was old school. It was as if Trapattoni was standing there on the sidelines. I'm keen to pick your brains about this Conte, this is Conte's Inter. What do you make of this squad? Because it's been quite the roller coaster season. I mean, getting knocked out of the Champions League, disappointment in the Coppa Italia, and then now on the verge of winning the Scudetto. What do you think? What do you make of all this, Patrick?
Well, I think in a way that's worked in their favour this roller coaster season. They don't have European football to think about, and so they can concentrate on the league. And I think that's showing. Atalanta, like you said, it was a little bit catenaccio, certainly. But, they kept a high-scoring team at bay. They didn't concede so much. Yeah, towards the end, they did have to suffer a little bit, and Atalanta came at them. But, I thought it was a very, very accomplished performance. And I think, they're in the driving seat and they deserve to be there. They're on a wonderful run. I think, Conte's got all the pieces in place and things are working exactly the way he wants them to at the moment.
For sure. I mean, looking at the fixture list, this run, 7 wins in a row, realistically, how much longer do you think this can go on?
Well, I mean, it's an odd season, so that's difficult to say because we've seen some funny results throughout the season, I would say, unexpected results, definitely. So, but I thought, honestly, that yesterday might have been a banana skin. I thought they might struggle. I thought Atalanta would definitely score. And that didn't happen. So I don't expect them to maybe win every single game from now to the end of the season. That's 12 matches. So that's maybe asking a little bit too much. But they're not conceding goals. So any side that doesn't concede goals is extremely difficult to beat.
For sure. I'm going to hand you over to Mo now. Mo, did you have a question for Patrick?
Yeah, hi, Patrick. Thanks for coming on. Well, hi. So my question, last time I asked this question was the game after the derby. Inter had just beaten Genoa and Milan had beaten Roma away. And the general consensus was that, like you had noted about the Atalanta game, the Genoa game might have been a banana skin game, a quintessential Inter trap game, post-derby high, possibility of taking the game, taking your foot off the gas in the match, so on and so forth. Yeah. Inter did very well. So my question to the guest that day was, what was more impressive? Was it Milan beating Roma at Olimpico, or Inter overcoming their traditional Inter self and managing to win those games that they deserved? So I'll ask the same question to you this week again, because I think this week is possibly even more meaningful for how the season pans out. Because I personally thought that Milan were for sure going to draw points against Hellas, but they didn't. They kept a clean sheet and they beat them at the Ventugodi.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, I'm not going to say handily beat Atalanta. It was a difficult game, but like you said, they kept the second highest scoring team in the league at bay and managed to take care of business in a very difficult match. So, to you, which result is more impressive, and which one do you think is more significant, if any, to how the season is going to end for the respective teams?
Well, in answer to the first question, I think, me personally, I think the derby was the turning point. I think they came out of that game on a real high, and I think from then on they realised that they could go on, take the lead in the table, and they could go on and win the championship, the Scudetto. I mean, it's still a little bit early to say for sure, but I think the feeling within the side is that they're now convinced they can do it, and I think that came after the derby. The derby was a massive game that convinced them that they could go on and do better things. So I'm going to say the derby. The game against Genoa, yes, I agree. It was certainly a bigger banana skin than the one against Atalanta. Atalanta, of course, doing very well, scoring lots of goals. Everybody expected Atalanta to give them a tough game. Genoa were doing well, but still a team, not at the top of the table. So for me, the turning point was the derby. That was the big game for me, I think. And I think the belief is there. That's the key thing. The belief is there. Conte believes it. Now the players believe it. They have a man at the helm who knows what he's doing. He knows how to win championships. And I think the players are now convinced that, they can.
For sure. I'm going to hand you over to Will. Will, did you have a question?
Yes. Hi, Patrick. Thanks for joining us. I've been listening to you on Premier Sports all season with your World Free commentary. So good to have you here. I wasn't sure what I was going to ask, but I was just watching the game again before we came on air, and I was struck again by that image that a lot of Inter fans were excited about on social media last night. And that was the rather unusual sight of Christian Eriksen hoofing the ball into the stands in minute 91 or something when Inter were under the cosh. And I mean, I suppose this question doesn't really matter because the bottom line is that he's now one of Inter's best players. He probably should have started yesterday, although I suppose that's easiest to say with hindsight. We all certainly were saying last week that we wouldn't be surprised if Arturo Vidal started. But do you think that these performances now, where he seems to be a much more sort of bedded into Conte's system, is he proving that Conte was wrong to kind of discard him and almost sell him in January and maybe not persist with him earlier in his time at Inter than he did? Or is he actually proving that Conte was right because he's had a year and now this is all clicked? Because I think everyone knew when he joined that it was quite possibly not a marriage made in heaven, him and Conte.
Yeah.
But I don't think. But it's taken a long time for him to come to the ball, and now he really has. So, and also, so that's one question. Do you have an opinion on which way that is? But also, do you think now we're in a position where literally he has to start every single match, no matter the opponent?
Well, I mean, I'd like to see him start every single match. Me personally, I'm a big fan, and I'd like to see him play all the time from the start. I agree. I still don't think he really matches Conte's idea of the kind of football he wants to play with Inter. But yeah, I mean, it's good to see that he has finally settled down. I think, in answer to your question, it is a little bit of both. I think it took him a long time to settle down. I think initially Conte didn't really see him in the side, didn't really know what to do with him or where to put him. Or, you know, Conte does like his rugged sides. He likes a physical team. Eriksen, we all know, isn't quite that. He's a bit of a creative player. He's not always a tough tackling player. So it's a little bit of both. I think for Eriksen, I think the good thing for him is that he's persisted. He didn't let himself, I don't think he let his head get too down, or, he stayed with it. He persisted and gradually convinced Conte that he could also play a role. And thankfully he is now. Like I say, I would still like to see him start from the very beginning all the time, because a player like that, I think, would be great for Italian football in general. To see him, a few more goals, maybe. He hasn't scored yet. That would be good. But if a goal were to come, that might really launch him for the rest of the season. So, yeah.
Ed, did you have a question for Patrick?
Yes, I did. Mine's about Atalanta, actually, would you believe?
Okay.
Because I read something quite interesting. Obviously, as a commentator, you have a better global view. I sometimes think that I can tend to get very Inter-centric a little bit. And my question was more about Atalanta in the sense that, so Fonseca, Roma coach, said something interesting the other day that was, a team's identity doesn't change, the strategy does, game to game, effectively. Did Atalanta, this is my question, did Atalanta get sucked into their own sort of style of play a little bit too much? Because, a lot of sort of ball control, a lot of passing it around, some nice nifty moves where it'd be sort of, a feint, the ball would go through. It looked very nice, but fundamentally, it didn't lead to a lot, especially not in the second half. In the first half, you'd have thought that Atalanta goal is coming. In the second half, and very much so, I really appreciated the Trapattoni comment you made, Nima, because that was exactly what Trapattoni would have done. It's throw on two defenders. In fact, I was entirely surprised that he replaced two defenders with two more defenders. I thought he was going to take off everyone and just put in, a 7-man back line at one point. Just to get back to my point, do you think Atalanta got sucked into their own style of football? I'm not going to say got too comfortable, but I don't know, sort of lost sight of what they were doing there, because I thought Atalanta played really well, but there was just nothing in the final third.
I think, to be honest, some of that merit has to go to Inter, because I think they shifted their game plan.
That's true.
To suit Atalanta's play, in the sense that they were expecting that, and I think in a way, I think Conte said, "Listen, we're not going to try and outscore them. We're going to play this kind of game," and they got the goal. Obviously, that helps. Fairly early on, so in the second half. So, I mean, if there is maybe one critique of Atalanta, it's possibly that they are a little bit one-dimensional. But I think that's part and parcel of how Gasperini likes to play. That's the kind of team he has built. That's what they know how to do, I guess. So, I guess they did get sucked in. I think tactically, Inter got it right.
Yeah.
That's, I guess, what I'm trying to say. Inter got it right, I think, and that will please Conte a lot. You can't always win scoring lots of goals. Tactically, they did the good things yesterday. They were solid at the back again. and they held on a little bit towards the end, but that will do. So I do think Atalanta did get sucked in a little bit, and they didn't quite know how to break down this Inter side by the end. So Atalanta do play very much. It's a one-on-one game with Gasperini. He likes the duels. You have to win the duels, and Inter are hard-running, physically very, very strong side. So they met their match yesterday.
That's a good point, but I wanted to, because I that's what I was thinking when I was watching the game. A little bit that a lot of that is down to was because of how Inter were solid defensively. I think between one of the reasons that I've been very critical or very doubtful with regards to Inter winning the Scudetto is because no matter how good the defense is and how well Conte's finally been able to balance that defense, if you don't have a goalkeeper who makes these insane saves, you're not going to win the league. And these last few weeks, Samir Handanovic is making these crazy saves that he was not making. I mean, he's gone from a liability. He's gone from a liability to a strength now.
Yeah, he's rediscovered his best form, especially in one that springs out to mind is the derby. I mean, he really excelled in that match.
And this is something that I wanted to ask you about. Do you think that this is, his poor form, which has been almost going on for 18 months? I mean, is this a case of class is permanent, form is temporary, or do you think that Inter do have a problem and that now he's, it's kind of like a little, renaissance, which isn't permanent, but the decline is real, and that Inter should be looking for a goalkeeper in the summer moving on. Where are you on this? Because I'm kind of, I don't know anymore. I'm really in the middle here.
That's a good question, and it's a difficult question because if you're not in the club or inside the club, then it's a difficult one to answer. I mean, just from watching Inter, I would probably say if I were part of the management, I would start looking for another keeper. But that's easier said than done because there aren't that many top keepers or, top class keepers around, or that teams are willing to sell, which is even harder. So you have to find a young upcoming keeper that you think will become the future of the team. I still do think Handanovic has got, some seasons left in him, but maybe he will never be the Handanovic of a few years ago. Yeah, maybe he won't. That's my feeling anyway. Yeah.
Well, that's kind of where I am as well. But then again, I go, well, because 2 seasons ago, when he won the best goalkeeper of the Serie A, he really was the best goalkeeper in the Serie A. And then last season, we saw a clear decline, continuous. And then for most of this season, barring a few matches before Christmas, it looked really grim, and he was looking like a liability. But then these past few weeks, he's, like you said, it's the old Handanovic, and where do you go with that? It's difficult, isn't it? Because that position is such a sensitive position.
It's a funny position, the goalkeeper, because like you say, there may be no real reason for his dip in form, or now his excellent form. I mean, not physically anyway. I think it's mostly a mental aspect of the game. It's a psychological thing that maybe there's just a slight lack of focus maybe at times, and it's obviously far more apparent for a goalkeeper than it is for other players. I would say for outfield players who definitely go through dips and highs throughout a season, but generally you can maintain an average, if you like, or but it's a difficult one. It's a difficult one, and it's not going to be easy to replace him either. So my feeling is, I probably would, but I don't think Inter will, is what I'm saying.
Oh, you don't think so?
I personally don't think so, no. I think they'll stick with him, and he'll be the keeper next season. But a lot can happen, obviously, in the summer transfer window, and this might be a slightly different summer transfer window.
For sure.
I mean, it's funny times we're living through. So, like I say, it's not going to be easy to find a new one if they are. So, they're going to have to look hard and look well.
If they were, I mean, posing that they would, are you team Juan Musso or team Alessio Cragno? Because I think I'm more to Alessio Cragno than Juan Musso.
Right, I see. That's a good question. I haven't seen either side that much. I have watched Musso a few times this season. I actually say I've been quite impressed with him. So I do quite like him. He's got good stature. He's good. Got good reflex saves. So I'd say, from what I know, I would probably go with Musso.
With Juan Musso.
Yeah.
Well, before we let you go, I just wanted to quickly ask you, how do you think this thing will end? And also, which 4 teams do you think will make it to the Champions League? Because that's also quite the hornet's nest.
Oh, wow. It is. So I do think Inter will win the Scudetto. I think they're the favourites, and I think everything is in place for them to win it. If they don't win it, it's because they've really let it go themselves. They've really it's spectacularly, in 12 games, I think it's going to be difficult to beat them. So they're definitely my favourites to win the Scudetto. As far as the other 3 teams are concerned, my picks are it's a difficult one. I thought, as you'd said earlier, Milan might drop points in their last match, but they didn't. So I'm going to stick with Milan finishing inside the top 4 as well. And I'm going to say Juventus are going to finish inside the top 4, and I think Atalanta will. They're my top 4.
Agreed.
Not necessarily in that order, but I think Inter will finish first, and then the others, I don't know.
Who cares? Who cares, Patrick? This is an Inter podcast. We don't care. We only care about Inter. No, seriously. Thank you. Before we let you go, if people want to find you on social media, I don't know which ones you use. If you've got something to promote, the floor is yours.
Actually, I'm not a huge social media man. I'm obviously on Facebook. I'm on Instagram. And so, yeah, that's where you can find me.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much for coming on, Patrick. It was a pleasure.
Thank you. It was a pleasure for me as well.
Take care. Ciao.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Right. Let's continue. Let's talk about the Atalanta game. For me, the most impressive thing is still the defense and how well positioned they were. All the 3 of them. I don't think that Milan Skriniar, Stefan De Vrij, and Alessandro Bastoni individually are the best, are maybe even top 3 best central defenders in the world. But I do think that together they form the best defensive line in the world right now. The way they completely locked Inter down, and the way it feels like the confidence and patience and energy they created with the calm they spread in defense is also helping, was a large factor in getting Samir Handanovic to kind of regain his confidence and to play like he's doing. And I felt that if that game had gone on for another 24 hours, Atalanta would still not have scored. And that's something I've not felt about an Inter defense playing against the top side for many, many years.
Let's call it 11.
Yeah, let's call it 11. No, but seriously, it really was like that. And as someone who's very partial to disciplined defensive football, and I love that. I don't have any problems with this. I don't, I'm not team Pep and tiki taka. I'm team, Jose Mourinho and Helenio Herrera all the way. But that's just personal preference. But I have to say that the more I look at this Inter team, the more it feels like an Inter, like it's Inter. It's not Antonio Conte's Inter. It's Inter, and Antonio Conte is a flavor that has married Inter really well. What do you think, Mo? Where are you on this whole thing about the defense and everything I said?
Yeah, no, I think you're 100% correct in that something happened over 2021. I mean, we'd been singing praises of the defense in general through the season, of course, without giving Handanovic his due criticisms when merited. But overall, the defense has been good. But something shifted sometime over the past 6-7 weeks, where, like you say, there's some sort of feeling amongst them, a level of understanding. Again, for me, it's typified by that block in the derby by Skriniar, the "thou shalt not pass" stop. It was in the derby, wasn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
That's Anoglu, right? Yeah, I think so. Anyway, so there's definitely a growing sense of snowballing confidence amongst them, and I do take issue with you not calling them the top, and not one of them being amongst the top 3 defenders in the world. I think any of the 3 has a shout in being in the top 3 defenders in the world. I think they really are that good. And
what I meant was, let me just clarify that. I'm not saying that they don't have the ability to be that good. I'm saying they're not today that good. They definitely have the ability to be there, especially Bastoni and Skriniar. I mean, wow.
Yeah, no, I know what you mean, but I think today, looking at defenders around the world, especially at that age bracket or level of experience or competition, I struggle to think of anyone who would blow any of these guys out of the water in terms of performances or stature. But anyway, that's the side issue. The main point is what's been very surprising in the last run, this 7-game winning run, is the lack of goals conceded. And like you said, maybe Handanovic's upswing in form is in no small part due to the fact that he knows that in front of him lies this solid wall, and the team is doing their job, and he has confidence in not leaking ridiculous balls through, and then that allowed him to regain his confidence and step up his game as well. So yeah, no, I mean, I agree with you totally in everything you said.
Ed, I'm keen to hear how you felt when you watched Inter. We've not had you on you've not been able to come on for a long time. I mean, this has been quite the roller coaster season. I mean, I think Mo was the only person in the world who thought that Inter were going to win the Scudetto in November when Inter finished last in the Champions League group, and it was looking really grim. Honestly, did you think Inter would be in this position given when we were there in November? And do you think that Inter will win this Scudetto moving forward?
So let's answer question 1. Back in November, did I think we'd be first right now? The answer is no. Ma assolutamente no. Of course, constant pessimist. And I have to respect and admire Mo for being an Inter fan all his life and for maintaining this. I don't even want to call it optimism, because I think there's a lot of reasoning behind it. Optimism sometimes lets you think that someone is being too generous or too this. I think, Mo, you had very good reasons back in November to believe that we'd be in front right now. And I think the rest of us sometimes do get carried away, but by the sort of bad news and sort of developments and the fact that it's Inter. You'll just say to yourself, "My Inter." I grew up on joke books being written about Inter failing to win anything. Oh, who's got the best team on paper? Inter. Ha! So Moratti covered the entire pitch in newspapers. Che ridere. That was our teenage years, Nima. This as well as I do.
Yeah, I was gonna say, Mo, you, me. That's how we grew up.
That's how we grew up, babe. I mean, yeah. But so the second question was, do I think we're going to do this now? Yes, I do. Yes, I do. And I wanted to say something, and I wanted to say this after we'd gone 2-up against Parma. I wanted to say it then, and I think I jinxed it because a few minutes later, Parma scored the goal that could have let them back into the game and let them back into the game effectively, which was, this is how champions play. This is how Juventus used to play when I hated them. Well, I still hate them. But, they would just defend and then score these cheesy goals on the counter. And you'd be like, oh, God, I can switch this game off now or try and watch La Liga instead because I'll get more entertainment that way. Because they would just have these games down pat. And yes, admittedly, Inter conceded the goal, but then they showed great personality, as they showed great personality against Atalanta. And this is how champions win it. And I really enjoyed that Luigi Garlando wrote about this in the Gazzetta today. He wrote the word soffrire about 400 times, which obviously we all know what that means. But, the Italian concept to suffer. But if it's used in this context, it also means to be able to sort of, to be able to hold on. That's possibly the best definition, to hold on, to deal with it with a stiff upper lip. And I think Inter showed incredible poise in the second half, because at the end of the day, Atalanta's best chances were in the first half, not in the second. And I really disagree with the English commentators, so I was following the world stream as well. And towards the end of the game, they were saying, the second commentator, who'd added nothing during the entire game, said, "You really feel it coming, don't you? The Atalanta goal." And I just said, no. Because I've been watching Italian football for more than 10 minutes, and I know that this is a team that is actually running out of ideas and a defense that is, if anything, increasing in stature. So, no, I am, to be honest with you, Mo, you were right. And to be quite honest with you,
I didn't see this coming either. And
no.
The thing is, like you said, Mo isn't like, he's not a silly person who's like just optimistic, like shiny.
No, you don't get carried away. No, exactly.
He had a thought behind everything he said, and I couldn't see it. I really couldn't see it. So shout out to Mystic Mo.
I mean, I was following the podcast this season. You sounded like you believed in it more.
Yeah.
I mean, in previous seasons, you would believe. In previous seasons, I think, Mo, you would believe in a result that we didn't believe in. Yeah. So, yes, this weekend we'll do Lazio, and I might have thought in my own, sort of, I would have thought, okay, that's nonsense. But for you to actually say, no, we're going to win the title this year. It's like, okay, well, that's completely different. You exposed yourself, and well, so far, chapeau.
Exactly.
Amici. È l'ultima retta. Look at the next 4 games.
Yeah.
I don't want to jinx it, but look at the next 4 games. The next tough game we have
is Napoli.
Fuori grotta, amici. That's oof.
No, it's Napoli. I mean, I'm looking, and it's one. And if I'm not mistaken, Will, you can help me on this. Is it not like one game a week now for 2 weeks, and then the international break, and then it's 2? Is it another 3 game week there before the Napoli game? Or I can't remember. I'm putting on this spot here, I guess.
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
You've got me testing testing how fast I can Wikipedia something while we're on air. No, I mean we've got Europe coming up, haven't we? So we can't have those games. No. Yes. Yeah, the next 3 game week is Napoli, Spezia, Verona, which is the end of April. So yeah.
Yeah, and Napoli is the beginning of that week. So the next 4 games is when Conte gets a week to prepare for games, and we all know.
Next 5. Sorry,
next 5. Yeah,
although Bologna is coming off an international break, so that's not as easy. But yeah, in theory, 5 games with 1 week preparation.
Yeah, exactly. It's 5 games. We have one week to prepare for, and we all know it's not even up for debate. There is no better coach in the world when he has a week to prepare for games than Antonio Conte. And I'm looking at that draw, and like you said, I don't want to jinx it. Aside from the Napoli game, that's 12 points. That means 11 possibly straight wins, which is crazy. I mean, I can't believe I'm saying this. I have to pinch myself, and the reason, and I said it yesterday on Twitter, and everyone lost their minds, and I was kind of. I do think Inter are going to win it. I'm calling it. Inter are winning the Scudetto. It would take, let me put it to you this way. It would take a collapse of historic stature for Inter to lose this, because look, it's at least 7 points. And I know it's 6 points in actual points, but you have to remember Inter have that head-to-head over Milan as well. So in essence, it is 7 points, which means that Inter have to lose 2 and draw 1, and the others have to win all in order for them to overtake Inter. I don't see that happening. I honestly don't see that happening, and I know so that's why I was tweeting yesterday. I'm calling it Inter winning the Scudetto, and it feels bizarre to bring those words in my mouth. It really does, but I guess they're going to have to get used to that. I mean, we've gotten used to Kuzmanovic and the rest of it for the past decade. I guess we can get used to Inter winning the Scudetto, which still feels bizarre. But I think for me, what really grounded it was the performance. I mean, against against Parma, because I thought Milan's trap game for me was against Udinese and Hellas, and especially because Udinese can frustrate anyone in this league. And at the same time, Inter now have played 2 matches where they have not. It's not been clicking properly, and they've gone and won those games. They've delivered the goods. That's something that that this team has not done for over a decade. Win ugly, and it's beautiful when Inter win ugly because it annoys so many people. But above all, it's beautiful because it annoys an incredible amount of people. But above all, it's beautiful to see because this is how, like you said, Ed, this is how champions play. This is how you act when you win the league, and this is how Juventus have done these past 9 seasons when they've won the league. When these ugly, like you said, gritty, they counterattack in a goal. This is how you win leagues, and it's looking more and more like it. Mo, I'm feeling you need to bring down the positivity here a little bit. I think we're in the twilight zone here, and I'm flying off into the atmosphere. Talk me down. Why aren't Inter going to win? Why is this going to be tight and go down to the wire?
Yeah, look, I don't know if it's going to be tight or down to the wire, but I'm definitely not comfortable with all this positivity. It's
Me neither.
Yeah, no. It's.
I just need a few minutes to get over Nima asking Mo for the negative and to bring us back down to earth. I'm some sort of weird parallel universe I've stepped into here.
No, look, I don't know. Again, I think the bottom line for me is, like I said last week, is as we do these match previews and I continue looking for predictions and generally trying to second guess how Inter are going to go into the games and, lose matches that they shouldn't and whatever. This team has just gone out and done what is expected of its potential, and they've done the business when they've had to. And when we look at the rest of the league, there's no real reason why they should drop points more than any of the chasing pack would against any of the other teams. And I think that's it. I think this team, I think Patrick had mentioned that earlier on before he left. There's a sense of belief after the derby that, hey, you know what, this is us. They've taken on the persona of the true capolista, the true favorite, the true, Scudetto leaders. So I think as long as this mentality, this will to continue winning against all sides and continue not underestimating any opponents, all that mental stuff that counts for so much more than just the physical tactics that take place over the 90 minutes. If they continue making sure that part of the game is under control and kept in check, we're just going to do our business. I don't know how tight the race is going to be because I can't speak for the other teams. Milan certainly can seem to pull off these ridiculous results like winning at the Olimpico or winning at the Ventugodi when you wouldn't expect them to, but they do so playing well.
Like that's the thing with these two teams that really surprises me with both Inter and Milan. It's that the football they play, Milan against Roma, they dominated Roma. And against Hellas, even though they have so many injuries, it's as if Pioli, he's everything that we never saw before in his career, in how he was unable to turn a tide when, first things go up like a straight arrow upwards, and then when they go down, they go equally as straight down. But at Milan, it seems that he's found that ability to stop that and reinvent and get these players on board and to get them to adapt. I mean, this new role that Kessie has, playing him deeper when Bennacer is gone. It's been phenomenal, and that in and of itself has unlocked Tonali and Krunic, etc., and the rest. And Selemakers is looking much more like a professional footballer than he's ever been. And then you look at Inter. Sorry, I just got to say. And then you look at Inter, and I look at Christian Eriksen is defensively more sound than Arturo Vidal and Roberto Gagliardini, and that's a transformation that him and Conte have to. They're both equally to praise for that, but it's truly remarkable. I never thought that Christian Eriksen would be a defensive midfield pillar like he's become, and I don't know how to. I can't process that because I did not see that coming. Mo, did you?
Yes, I got stuck on mute here. I think you're right, but yeah, I mean, look, Milan have Napoli up next, so I guess we'll see. I think they're more likely to drop points than Inter, and they have Milan and have Napoli at the San Siro, which. I mean, I was just checking out of curiosity yesterday, but their away form is the top of the table, but their home form is, I think, puts them at 7th or 8th in the league. So let's see how that works out. Again, I think now we've reached a point where we shouldn't think of what the rest do. Inter are the league leaders, and all they need to do is keep on doing what they've been doing, which is taking care of business, racking up the 3 points, and at the end of the day, they'll finish top of the league, and I think it's as simple as that. So here's to hoping that Conte can make sure that the guys can keep it all together mentally, physically, and tactically, so that come May we're celebrating.
What is it? Padrone dei nostri destini, as Spalletti used to say. God, I miss him. He's a crazy guy.
I'm sorry on Spalletti. I don't know if I said this on the podcast the other day, but for some reason, about a month ago, for whatever reason, I got I like that Uomini Forti, Destini Forti, Destini Deboli. It got stuck in my mind, so I decided to watch it on YouTube. It's such a viral clip. Like, it's amazing. It really is amazing. his like, the whole thing is just perfect. And it got stuck in my head for like 7 days. I just kept on driving between meetings, between calls, whatever. Like,
I mean, there's people who get stuck with grime songs in their heads for 7 days, or Shakira, and you get stuck with Luciano Spalletti saying, insomma, la cosa importante è uomini forti. Cioè, dai.
Uomini forti, destini forti.
I destini forti.
I love him, and I just I think, I mean, what Handanovic said, I think it was after the derby when he goes that, look, something changed when Spalletti came here, mentality wise and quality wise, and he built something that Conte's come in and built on, and I think that's a really interesting point, and I think that shouldn't be forgotten here, even though he was completely crazy and funny, and he was, I mean, just the things he did. I think I missed a little bit of the like his flamboyance and general just Spallettiness, just running into the camera during training, making funny faces and stuff like that. I don't know. He's quite the character. I hope we get to see him in the Serie A pretty soon. Let's talk about, I mean, Torino now, a relegation battling Torino on Sunday, this is another thing. Barella, Bastoni, Lukaku, Brozovic are still one yellow card away from suspension, and they're not even close to getting yellow carded. So they're all going to be there for the Torino game. I just hope that this is the last we see of Arturo Vidal in an Inter starting lineup, because when Christian Eriksen comes on and shows that he's better defensively, then I think this is the team. Just go with it. The only thing you need to maybe shift between is Alexis Sanchez and Lautaro Martinez, depending on who you play, because of depending on how they defend and which player suits which traits suit what the opponent's traits suit Inter's traits in terms of attack and the approach Conte wants to use. I'm thinking 2-3-0 win, Lukaku doppietta, and Barella goal, 3-0. What do you think, Mo?
Well, let's give Eriksen that goal that he deserves. So we'll have Eriksen score. Lukaku needs to get on the score sheet. Let's call it a hard-fought 2-1 win. It's not going to be easy. You never really know with these relegation battling sides. And I know that Davide Nicola is a calculated manager when it comes to planning these great escapes. So maybe he decides that this is a throwaway game and he shouldn't focus too much on it because the 3 points are gone. So they're not going to put up a fight. I don't know. But in a traditional sort of relegation battling towards the end of season-ish sort of sense, I would imagine this being a tough match. So I'd say a tough 2-1 with Lukaku and Eriksen scoring. Hopefully Eriksen's getting the winning goal towards the end of the match for extra
extra Inter porn. Ed, what about you? What do you think?
I've got to be honest. I'm not particularly concerned by Torino. I just don't see this team. I mean, their most recent performance saw them get absolutely, shellacked by Crotone. Insomma, they haven't, they beat Cagliari. I admit that actually surprised me, but otherwise they're quite winless. No one scores on that team outside of Bellotti. Yeah, no, I see this as a comfortable win too. I really do. I'm really sad because I've always sort of had a very soft spot for Torino. I've had a soft spot for Bellotti. I just really like that club. For me, it's the sort of side of Turin I like for obvious reasons. And no, I just don't see them causing us a problem, really. I think Sassuolo's the trap game, if anything. But if we've seen from this season's completely crazy. So we could just roll over both of these teams and then trip up against someone else, as far as I can see it. No, I don't see this being a problem at all. La lista dei diffidati va bene, but I think really we should consider the diffidati ahead of Napoli. That's the real issue. I'd rather get a card right now and play Sassuolo with a reserve player than then have to worry about, because then it's Bolo away and whatever. Yeah. And then Cagliari at home supposedly, and that ain't so much, right?
Yeah. No,
these are all leaky ships. I mean, these are the three teams that have possibly annoyed me the most this season in Serie A, outside of Crotone. And so I really don't have a high opinion of these sides at all, to be honest with you.
No, I couldn't agree with you more. Will, I mean, this cliffhanger with the yellow cards. I mean, it just keeps on rolling, and I'm, that's the only thing I'm worried about. How is this going to come and bite Inter in the ass in the worst way? Where are you on this? What are you thinking? What are you thinking there?
Well, we've spent a month talking about the players that were on a warning, and the first person to pick up a painful yellow card was the coach, because Antonio Conte is suspended for this match instead of any of his players. This was rather surprising. He's picked up that booking he got against Atalanta, so we're going to have Stellini again for this match in Turin. I mean, it's remarkable, isn't it? And it was De Vrij called him out on it last night in the interviews, didn't they? Conte was saying how he was pleased that we didn't get any yellow cards, and how it showed that everyone was disciplined and it wasn't a sort of a really a desperate effort. And then De Vrij, who was on the line with him at the same time, actually he stopped and said, "Actually, Mister, there was a yellow card. You got one," which I thought was a nice moment. I mean, look, as you said, we've now got 4 games where it's not such a disaster if we pick up these yellow cards. It still isn't. I still wouldn't feel entirely comfortable if, say, Barella and Brozovic picked up a booking for the same game. Or if Lukaku and Barella did it for the same game, I'd still think it would be a problem. But we've done the 3 sort of really big games. We've escaped without any suspensions. And I think it's worth reminding people that Marcelo Brozovic has now been on a warning for 11 games. and he plays in central midfield. He picked up his 4th booking against Hellas Verona in December last year. Barella's been playing for 8 games with a booking. Remember, he used to be Mr. Booking. This is a really big improvement that Barella has made as well. We've had Bastoni, who's been playing for 7 games against these big teams. So I think it's really impressive. And it's not as if they've been sort of pulling out of tackles and not playing properly. They've got a real discipline that's been helping them through. So no, I think that could still be a problem. If they all get booked in the same game, then sure. But I don't think that's now a serious issue like it was ahead of these big games. So, I wouldn't have minded, for instance, if one of them had picked. I must admit, there was a moment at the end of this Atalanta game where I was kind of disappointed that one of them hadn't picked up a booking for the Torino game. But, it'll happen when it happens. We've got a 6-point lead, which is actually 7, as you said. So I don't think it's not a huge concern to me anymore, personally.
No.
Can I just say on the Atalanta game, I tweeted this last night. I think that not selling Skriniar to Tottenham last summer is one of the biggest sliding doors moments that we've had in this club's modern history. I mean, I compared it to Ibra and the Ibra Neto swap on Twitter last night, and it is potentially a Scudetto winning moment for us. Spurs not offering enough money has been an absolute godsend, and because he's been as good as he's ever been for Inter in this season. So thanks, Jose. Enjoy whoever you've got. I can't remember who Spurs are playing at the moment in their central defence, but yeah, that was good. I like that.
Undoubtedly so. Did you have a prediction for Torino? Did I miss that?
No, I think we'll win 2-0. Torino have had COVID, haven't they? They need to stay up. They're probably going to be quite urgent, because before they had these postponements, they were out of the bottom 3, and now Cagliari have picked up form and now they're in it. So I don't necessarily think it'll be a cakewalk, but yeah, fundamentally they are rubbish. The Crotone game, I didn't see it, but I was really surprised when I saw that result. I thought they were definitely going to win that game. So yeah, I think we should win this 2-0. I also like the fact that we don't play after Juventus and Milan either, so we've got a chance to pull out a gap. So I think this is all looking good. I think we should win 2-0 with Lukaku scoring both.
Nice one. Right, let's move on to the part of the show where we pay tribute, rip the piss out of, and criticize something or someone heavily in the world of football, starting with the positivity, which will be presented by Mr. Positivity, this week's Moratti, by Mohamed Nassa.
He works a lot, he's intelligent, and he surprises people sometimes with his ideas. Not easy to find one person all these qualities.
Yeah, so again, the theme of this podcast and this discussion so far has been the defense, no doubt, owing to the really fantastic performance against Atalanta yesterday. We've spoken about the unit. Will just spoke about Skriniar and the sliding doors. And I think the Moratti of this week has to be Milan Skriniar. Not only did he put in a masterful defensive performance on top of like a great set of defensive performances as well in other league matches, but I can't remember who on Twitter yesterday had written it, but the case of Skriniar is probably the craziest case of improvement on a single season in terms of personal performance. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous where this guy was last year, where I was over the summer talking about, selling him or Brozovic and maybe selling Skriniar as better value for money because he clearly doesn't fit, so on and so forth. And to now being once again, if not better than, but on par with De Vrij and Bastoni as a real pillar on which this team is founded, with that goal as well, the winning goal, and an extremely important match, showing all the desire and heart at the back and up at the other side, at the other end of the pitch as well. So the Moratti of the week has to be Milan Skriniar.
For me, I have to second that, and I have to say, for me, he is Inter's next captain. Milan Skriniar should be Inter's next captain for all the reasons you said, and also because of the fact that in modern football, you don't see players sacking their agents who are asking for too much money to be able to conclude a contract extension with the club you're at. And he did that. That is loyalty that money just can't buy. And the fact that he was on his way out, he refused to leave. He wanted to stay and fight for his place. And boy, has he. Make the man. I mean, I know everyone, Nicola Barella obviously is a candidate as well. But to me, it's got to be Milan Skriniar. I love Barella, and I understand why you'd make Barella the captain. But Skriniar captain, Barella deputy captain is where I am on that. I'm just quickly before we move on. Who do you guys have as the next captain? Is it Skriniar? Is it Barella? Starting with you, Mo.
Yeah, I think Skriniar for sure. He's got seniority in the team and in age. I think he's got a few years ahead of on Barella. So eventually Barella will have his time in the spotlight as well. So yeah, no, I'm all for Skriniar.
What about you, Ed? Barella or Skriniar?
I wouldn't be even against Steph de Vrij, to be honest with you. But no, I think Skriniar. I think I like having a solid defender being the captain, and I think I just like to think back. So we were talking about, I guess, being able to overturn a bad start of a season to the second half of the season. Just remember what our expectations were of Skriniar before he joined and when he joined. We just thought, okay, this is just another jabroni signing. And then look what he did. That's why it never sat well with me. It never sat well with me that we were going to sell him. I just thought, what are you doing? It annoyed me as well. I mean, anyone who followed me on Twitter knows that I was raging at the very prospect of selling. Of course you were.
It's just, you don't sell Milan Skriniar. You just don't.
You don't. Like it's comparable. I have to be honest with you. It's comparable to selling Roberto Carlos.
No, but it's yeah. I mean, especially given that he was on his way to Tottenham and Jose Mourinho. You do not give Jose Mourinho Milan Skriniar.
No,
because that's a cheat code. You do not arm Jose with Skriniar. You bring Jose to Inter if you want to unite them, but you do not give him where he is, Milan Skriniar. I mean, that's just like, congratulations. No. You just turned Tottenham. You just made Tottenham the best defense in the world. Like, you just don't do that. So no, I'm totally with you there. What about you, Will? Are you Barella or Skriniar for captain?
No, I think you said it all right. Leadership, longevity. Skriniar had no fanfare when he came. He earned his reputation with performances. He has never put a foot wrong in terms of his attitude, even when he was out of the team last season. And he pops up in big moments with big goals. And I don't think there's. If Barella is the captain, then that's fine. I think he's probably going to go on to be a legend as well. But right now, I'd give it to Skriniar. And I love the front page of Gazzetta this morning with Skriniar, Bacio Scudetto. I'm going to remember that if we end up winning the league. I thought that was
God, I loved reading that.
With Ericsson in the background as well.
Woke up, saw that, went into Gazzetta Gold, and I was like, oh, this is going to be a good day.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, nice.
Some of the other papers, by the way, to sort of depict this as Handanovic saves everything and Inter, Atalanta play and Inter win. You were saying earlier that this is going to annoy all the right people. You can already sense it.
Yeah, I love it. I mean, Gasperini yesterday, his tears, like, inject them into my arms. Like,
you can see it's Inter's.
Yeah, like, when he said those words, I was watching it live on TV, and I started scream laughing. I was like, oh yes, more. Make this interview go longer. I just want to hear him. I just want to see him squirm and hate this situation so much. It just gives me so much joy. So I'm sorry. I am petty. I am really petty. I don't care. Gasperini, like, everything he said and his tenure at the club, I don't like the guy. I have nothing against Atalanta, but I am very petty. And when I see that he was eating him from the inside and out, oh, delicious. I eat that up. Like,
exactly. Like, just get off our sack, dude. That was like in 2012, man. Like, just get over it, man. Like, I mean, if you'd chosen a career as an accountant, I'd understand. But this is football manager, dude. I mean, yeah, he was completely boned over. Don't get me wrong. Moratti gave him nothing to work with. He gave him, like, Laxalt before Laxalt was any good. But, I mean, come on. Like, basta.
I agree. Agreed.
Every time we played them, he has to say something. Every time. Insomma, dopo un po'.
It's like him and Frank De Boer. It's like every time.
Yes.
And I just remember Jose Mourinho, the worst coach in the history of the Premier League. that's
buona.
I love it. Nothing like a Mourinho takedown. He doesn't fuck around. Right, let's move on to something much more comical. This week's Frog, which we presented by Mr. William Beckman.
È clamoroso! Autogol di Ranocchia!
Yeah, I mentioned one sliding doors moment earlier with Skriniar and not going to Spurs. This other one is kind of linked to another sliding doors moment that could have potentially ruined our season. Now, admittedly, this wasn't, this never really gained huge traction as a transfer rumor, but it did. I do remember us covering it on the site in January, and that was this idea that we were going to possibly swap Christian Eriksen for Granit Xhaka at Arsenal. And Granit Xhaka proved this weekend why that would have been a seismically awful idea, with one of the funniest goals that I've seen this season, I think. Arsenal were playing really well against Burnley, not necessarily an easy team to face. They got in front, they've done the hard bit, and they're sort of playing it out from the back. And Xhaka proved that he can't do that in the same way that, well, let's say it was more from the Arturo Vidal school of playing out from the back than from the Christian Eriksen playbook. He just he didn't even pass it to Chris Wood. He just sort of kicked it at his shin or his hip. With I mean, firstly, why are you playing the ball across your box? That's the one thing that you never do, especially not if you haven't looked. And it was so farcical the way it bounced off Chris Wood's hip and bounced in for a match that ended up 1-1, by the way, so it cost them 2 points. And Chris Wood was so he didn't even have the heart to celebrate because he was so shocked at what had happened. He was sort of shrugging at his teammates, going, I don't know what happened really. And Xhaka walked back to the halfway line and was thinking, I could have been winning the league with Inter at the moment if my agent had been a bit cleverer. So yeah, thankfully we didn't sell Christian Eriksen, because otherwise we could have been conceding 4 or 5 goals like that this season. Sorry. So yeah. Go away.
Yeah, couldn't have said it better. Yeah, everything you said. Let's move on to something much more negative. This week's Moggi, which we presented by Mr. Edoardo Dal Monte.
Normally, this is a slam dunk, isn't it? You could literally fire any word or adjective at me and I could somehow connect it to this guy. If you guys want to try this thought experiment, I hate improv comedy. I fell asleep last time I tried watching. Literally, you can come up with any word and I can connect.
Okay.
Right.
Mo, just say any word, like any noun or any adjective or just any word.
Dog.
Yeah, well, a dog would have more sense than to climb on a motorbike with a complete stranger. You would think that a dog was house trained, that a dog was taught to do certain things, but no, this guy had to get on the motorcycle. And I mean, it's a good job that AC Milan are so unprofessional as to let their guy, oh yeah, my car's broken down. What do? I get on the motorcycle. And as my dad pointed out, the hero, he was like, excuse me, but if it had been an accident, who would have paid?
Yeah.
And this is literally the least bad thing he's done this week. And trust me, there are many, and you guys all know this better than I do. I mean, honestly, I don't even know where to begin with this guy. Okay, so he goes to Sanremo, and Nima knows all about this because I was ranting about this at Nima on WhatsApp. What was he doing presenting Sanremo? It was honestly unwatchable. The show itself is unwatchable, and then you've got this guy just like, oh, ha, I am Ibra. I do what I want. I'm in charge, and it's like, guys. That was funny in maybe 2005 when he was still playing for Juve. It really isn't funny right now. We had to watch him perform 3 times. He had to sing. He sang with Sinisa Mihajlovic at one point.
It was so bad.
I
don't think I've cringed so much in my life as when they are standing there singing whatever song that was.
Volare. It was Volare.
Yeah, like drunken, like basically like a group of Swedish football fans drunk in Kos. On holiday. Like it was painful. It was painful. I've never cringed so bad. I literally went and hid under a pillow whilst I was watching it. It really hurt me. I felt physical pain. No, and then
that was my discovery of the week.
Oh, and not just that he can't sing, and then when he walks down the stairs later on the week when he was doing that ridiculous dance, and it was like, why? But why? Why are you doing this? There is no need for this. And I get that you want to be, he's Italy's his second home. He's looking at his career afterwards. But if is this family entertainment, then this is probably the reason why we'll never get married and have kids, I guess, because
entertainment for the Manson family, maybe. I don't know. I mean,
like, is this what looking at like people that sports stars who are out of their depth doing things they shouldn't be doing, which is just looking like awkward giraffes. Like, no, and
that's only the second worst thing he did.
No. Well,
he also got done by Sinisa, didn't he? He got another Champions League gag on stage. Yeah. And he said there are those who've played the Champions League and those who've won it. How many people could get away with saying that to Zlatan Ibrahimovic?
Well, I mean, they are. I can think of. I mean, I know at least. I've seen this happen at least 2 times. Once was when. During the Swedish Oscar del Calcio, when Lotta Schelin, the female Swedish football player who won the Champions League with Lyon, I think several times, when she was getting Swedish female footballer of the year, and she turns it out to him, it's like she was going, "Yeah, this has been a fantastic year, winning the Champions League," and then turns around to Zlatan and says, "Yeah, how about that?" I mean, it's like so. I think, and he laughed it off, obviously, because that's the thing that he's missing. But I mean, Sinisa and him, they're very good friends. They're like, So I think the fact that people maybe think that he takes himself a little bit too seriously. I don't think he does, because if you took yourself seriously, you wouldn't do what he did for the past.
No, God, no, you wouldn't. And he ruined. I mean, this is like possibly actually because I was going to say he did 3 or 4 things this week, and we all know what they were, but. I'm going to add a 4th because I just suddenly thought about this. He ruined Sinisa Mihajlovic for me because, like Sinisa, look at him. He's smiling. He looked in great shape on the stage. And it's like, leave Sinisa, leave him alone. Let this be his moment, because I was so happy that it's like, look, he looks really happy and he's there and he's chatting away. And then what? And this is, by the way, have you no shame? A month after you uttered racist indecencies at a person of African origin, and you got pantsed in the derby. I mean, any one of us would be hiding in a cave right now for the next 25 years thinking, well, I hope people forget about it. And it's like, by the way, we're not going to forget about it, but never mind that. Scusa, cioè, non ti vergogni, amico. And obviously the worst thing is the LeBron thing, which is even worse.
That was really embarrassing, and LeBron just took him to town on that. I mean, we've discussed this, and I mean, we all agree, we all think differently. I don't think the Lukaku thing, voodoo thing, was racist at all. But when
you don't think so?
No, I don't think so. I think he was quite clear what he was referring to. But never mind that. But the LeBron thing, that just was like, be quiet. You've no idea what you're talking about here, because and then his defense was racism isn't politics. And which is just so that's also like, well, and he's not alone in thinking that. You should have seen. I mean, I've heard that by so many people, not just in Sweden, but generally online. When he said, see, bro, Zlatan was right, and I'm like, and it's like I don't mean this as a derogatory form of someone being stupid, but it's ignorant and uninformed to say something like that because it's not true. And to go up against LeBron James, who love him or hate him, the guy, he does his homework. He knows what he's talking about. It just fell flat. It fell so flat. And the Sanremo nightmare that he put it. Who is this guy's PR agent, and why aren't they telling him to? Like, who's advising him? Does he even have someone? Because it's.
I was going to say, who's good? I don't think he would accept advice, would he? He's his own. He's his own entity, isn't he? I think he does his own stuff. He's not going to
accept footballing coaching advice. Is he going to accept PR advice?
Well, I mean, no, yes, but I mean, the footballing thing, you can understand that's his job, that he's good at, but he's not good at PR. He's really not. I mean, it's been since the derby, it's been one giant disaster after another for him. It's like you put one foot and then he manages to put both feet and both hands in his mouth over and over again, and it's just like, stop talking. Less is more. Silence is golden. And
he was lucky he got injured this other week, because
Well, that's
absolutely
another thing.
Embarrassing.
That's another thing.
They were going to have him, coming to and from training to play Milan's, midweek games against Udinese and against Verona. This sort of special training program on the beach that Milan didn't even announce themselves. It was Amadeus, an Inter fan, who was telling people what Ibra was going to be doing for his training throughout the Sanremo week. I mean, it was really, really embarrassing.
Oh, it was weird. It was really weird. And I can't help but think that if this was an Inter player doing this,
if Mauro Icardi had hosted
just think. Mauro and Wanda, if they were still around, and Mauro decided to do that for a week, like, can you just imagine the pressure Inter would be under? I mean, it would be a completely different thing, and whilst doing that, you get passed by Inter in the top. It's
wouldn't live that down. You wouldn't live that down for years. No. That would go down as the year in which you showed up at Sanremo while your team was tanking.
Yeah, exactly, and that's exactly how it would be.
He was stood on the stage at Sanremo while Milan were losing to Udinese, and would have lost had it not been for a Calciopoli handball from Sturridge Larsen in the 90th minute.
God!
Actually, that could have been a Moggi.
Yeah,
for
sure.
Whatever you want.
Yeah,
just remember that now.
No, it's the Sturridge Larsen thing. I mean, but the funny thing is that's not even the worst handball that Milan that has happened in a Milan game. I mean, Somauro against Bologna, he managed to grab the ball with both hands in the penalty unattacked, which was a feat in and of itself. I genuinely sat there with open mouth, gobsmacked, wondering if there was something wrong with my TV when I saw that. So no, right. That's all we had time for this week. I want to thank Patrick Tarroni. I want to thank you, Mo.
Thank you very much. It was a great episode.
As always. You, Mr. Edoardo Dal Monte, good to have you back. Don't be a stranger.
Oh, bless you. Thank you for having me back. Oh, I'm so happy to be here.
Good to be with you. And Mr. William Beckman.
Thank you. Stay tuned to SempreInter for Saudi news now this week and Qatari links. We're bringing all the glitz and glamour this week to the Suning story. Yes, but anyway, happy birthday, Inter, and 3 points, please.
Happy birthday, Inter. Until next week, I'm your host, Nima Tavalla, wishing you to stay stay safe, stay healthy, listen to your authorities, wishing you 3 points, and sempre e solo forza Inter.